There is a moment in the From Season 4 finale when the sky turns black in the middle of the day. The town simply loses its daylight. The one thing its trapped inhabitants have always been able to count on, the boundary between survival and the monsters that emerge after dark. That image captures what Season 4 is ultimately about. The terrifying discovery that the rules these characters learn to survive by were never the real rules at all. From has always been, at its most fundamental level, a story about the power of the stories we choose to believe. The town doesn't just trap its inhabitants physically, it traps them epistemically, feeding them information, offering partial answers, and watching as they construct explanatory frameworks that seem to work until the moment they catastrophically don't. Every season has been a controlled demolition of whatever understanding the characters had managed to build. Season 4 continues this pattern with a new and specific escalation. A singular, tangible antagonist who is also, crucially, an actor. A shapeshifter who has infiltrated the town wearing the face of vulnerability itself. The man in yellow's transformation into Sophia, a teenage girl presenting herself as a grieving pastor's daughter, is the season's central dramatic irony. The audience knows from the very beginning of the season. The characters, who spend every waking moment attempting to solve impossible mysteries, fail to connect the dots. And the season capitalizes on this by investing the man in yellow's psychological manipulation of specific targets. Henry, sent spiraling through hallucinations toward his worst impulses. Clara, a background character elevated into being the man in yellow's collaborator. The man in yellow successfully deceives the entire town through the simple expedient of performing helplessness exceptionally well. Tabitha and Jade's arc, which positions them as reincarnating souls whose repeated failures have drawn them back across lifetimes, generates the season's most cosmologically ambitious material, while Boyd remains the show's emotional center. Harold Perrineau remains one of the most underrated performers on television, and his ongoing concealment of what appears to be Parkinson's disease, managing tremors while managing a town in permanent crisis, quietly preparing Kenny to eventually lead in his place, is the season's most sustained piece of character work. His hallucinations, blurring the line between supernatural visitation and deteriorating neurological function, continue to be the show's most thematically rich material. Whether the dead are genuinely speaking to Boyd, or whether this is the increasingly unreliable perception of a man whose body is failing him, is a question the show has the wisdom to leave genuinely open. The season's most painful losses arrive in the finale with the logic of inevitability rather than shock. Marielle's death, a slash to the gut that leaves her time to say goodbye to Christy, is among the most emotionally devastating sequences this series has produced. Chloe Van Lanschut and Kaylin Ohm in that final scene together are something the show's frequently undervalued human dimension can point to as evidence of what it is capable of at full extension. When Christy breaks down crying in the aftermath, you feel the accumulated weight of every loss this town has demanded of them. And then there's Fatima. Her transformation, her deepening connection to the creatures completing itself in the tunnels, arrives at the logic of a tragedy that was always going to reach this destination. She doesn't die, she becomes something else, and the show understands that this is, in its own way, quite possibly much worse. The bottle tree's destruction, warned against explicitly by the boy in white, but ultimately ignored by Boyd under the pressure of necessity, is the season's most precise encapsulation of the show's central argument. Every action taken in good faith in this place seems to carry consequences calibrated to punish good faith. From has now completed 4 seasons, and is heading into its 5th and final chapter with a specific and genuinely earned mandate. It must now finish answering what it has spent 4 seasons asking. The show is outstanding at generating mystery, at making the impossible feel cosmically purposeful, at using supernatural horror to illuminate something true about the human need to construct meaning from chaos. What it will have to prove in its final season is that it knows how to pay these things off, how to provide answers commensurate with the weight of the questions, and how to construct an ending that honors everything these characters and the audience have endured together. For what is perhaps the most underrated show on television, the final reckoning is almost here. From Season 4 is streaming now on MGM+, so if you haven't started this series yet, I cannot recommend it enough. But if you have, let me know in the comments. What was your biggest takeaway from Season 4? And are you confident the show can stick the landing in its final season? Subscribe to Fandom Frontline for more deep dives into the stories that shape our fandom.